metres.
Yeah.
£1,000, £1,177 per square metre.
So it's saying that 40 square meters,
Yeah,
and that's the price that I found that online.
yeah.
And that's for this build. But I sort of developed my model, developed my ideas further and further through various models. And these are some like wall joints that I came up with,
Okay.
connection pieces that would provide like a modular system
Yeah,
to basically make the home able to be made quicker,
yeah,
and sort of built almost off-site, so to reduce that like erection times
yeah.
of building. So there were some joints that I made.
So have you,
This is more like the early stage where I was developing various ideas, and we'll come to my idea, my final idea soon.
okay.
So I even developed being sustainable in terms of being able to withstand hurricanes, so streamlined design, I came up with that.
Okay.
But that's
That, you have to be careful with that because that generates lift
yeah,
So-
that shape.
and therefore may actually generate quite a lot of, dynamic force on lifting force. So you have to be a bit careful there.
Yeah, and I sort of like found out that a dome shape would probably be much better than this, like a sphere,
Yeah,
and it needs to be connected to the ground as well.
yeah. Which is why I want to take off.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I developed this, but I felt like now I was veering away from my brief.
Nice.
It looked nice, but I felt like it wasn't following all the things that I'd set out at the beginning to do.
Okay.
So I sort of grouped all my ideas together and came up with this idea now,
Okay.
which is this home.
Very nice. Great.
And
It's pretty good.
so yeah, so the home, I decided to, in order to allow it to store heat,
Yeah.
I'd embed it into land,
Yeah.
so that the energy would pass through instead of just get spread out into the air.
Yeah.
So that was sort of me thinking back to the brief, and whilst using the cob structure that I was looking at, and whilst maintaining the joints that I spoke about before.
Yeah.
And here I've just considered the user's interaction.
For good thermal gain, then you need to think very carefully about how much airflow you need into, these spaces. So, bathroom airflow and dry air and a storage room. There's a risk of damp and, stale air. So you need to think about that
Okay.
because you've got no through ventilation. So
Okay.
you normally would need ventilation up to your roof, and then so in this building we take all the warm air that's in the basement, on the first floor, and pass it through fresh air that comes in through the roof and heat up the fresh air.
Okay.
It's an energy efficient way of keeping the building warm.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so this was the living room space,
Yeah.
and then we have bedroom space and outdoor space here.
So where do you eat?
You eat
In the kitchen.
in this small area here,
Okay.
which is part of the living room, more the deep bit of the television and the fireplace that you saw
Yeah.
in the videos down
So it's a long way from the cooking to the eating.
Okay.
So that could be worth thinking about.
All right. So I'll ask. Yeah, there's a question about that as well.
What's this space here? An open hallway.
Yeah.
So that could be a dining area.
Could be
You really want to be able to,
coat,
yeah.
shoes,
Yeah.
just a free room to each room you want, bathroom, office, which way do you want to go?
Yeah.
So the first question is, how well do you think that this design will reduce the social disengagement between families? So to give a bit of context between that, I've made a balcony that runs through. I don't know if you remember in the video. I made a balcony that runs through on the top floor.
Yeah.
To sort of give relation between them, so that you feel like you're in one big room.
Yeah.
How well do you think that works? Because that's the aim, to create engagement between families,
Yeah.
instead of segregation, locked off.
I think having one long open space is a good idea. And having a separate play area is a good idea, so that maybe you could think about having some transparent glass panels in some of those walls, so that although if the children are playing and it's noisy, they're not annoying you, but equally that you could still see that they're in there, and you might be able to look through some panels. So having interior windows might be worth helping that space feel connected.
Okay.
I think the big thing for me would be to have a dining area here, so that the kitchen and the dining space where people would come together to socialise and eat would be very very efficient and conducive to a family environment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think marketing question here. So when testing the product on a larger scale, we intend to gain primary research. In business terms, what would be a reasonable price to pay for families in order to gain this information? So we would to give them money in order to ask them questions a bit like this about.
Okay.
But that could cost money because they've had families that are busy. So what would be a reasonable price to pay them?
So we do that here, and this is actually a research room. So we have cameras where we have public, and I think it's about, standard price is about £30 an hour per participant for somebody off the street. But sometimes if it's a professional, we're up to £150, £200 an hour, depending on what who you want to interview. So if you were to interview an architect, you might have to pay them a lot more. So it varies quite dramatically. But generally, when research is done, there are set prices for.
Because we were looking to do about 300 families, 300 couples.
So it might be worth thinking about doing an online questionnaire to get a lot of the large volume information, and then do a much smaller, we call them human factors studies when we're doing products. So we might do, one of the big studies might be 1,000 people online, and then maybe just 15 people for an hour face to face, because the amount of data you produce is so big, and that 15 people is enough to get a statistical relevance, and you make sure that you recruit people with different skills, different professions, but all in the right target market.
Okay. Right. What factors should I alter in my design when moving the product to countries in hotter climates? So if I wanted to branch out, what sort of things would I need to change?
So I think in hotter climates you would want to think about reducing the thermal gain in the first place. So you really want to think about maybe turning the direction of the building. A lot of the African, Spanish properties have got very small windows, very big thick walls to keep the dwellings cool in the summer, and they then suffer in the winter. So maybe think about something that's a bit more modular. Maybe think about areas that you could move for the winter to reduce the size. Maybe you can move them to the back of the building and then move them more to the front in the summer when you want to be maybe outside. But certainly thinking about ventilation is a very big part of building aspect.
Okay. Do you have any tips on how we could maximise the efficiency of our product in manufacture?
So I think you'd want to have a look at standard size materials. What are what's the fundamental size that sheet material is made? What's the standard sizes of lengths of glulam? You know, so everything you can do that's stock, if you can go online and say, look, I can buy a 2 metre by 4 metre sheet of this, and you can work with that, that's going to be much more efficient than you having, you know, post-processing to change the size, or so try and work with as much, you know, off-the-shelf sizes as you can. The less you do to that material, you know, the cheaper and the more efficient the building will be, and the more sustainable it'll be.
Okay. And my original brief was to make it, the target market was families. Do you have any tips on how I could make it more inclusive for, say, students, or use this concept of it being in land,
Yeah.
with the same materials and properties, how I could make a product that's more affordable for different types of people as well.
So maybe think about scalability. So maybe, you know, maybe you can buy this in 3 modules. So you could have 1 module for, you know, a couple, but maybe they could, just like extending a house, but maybe it could be something you just add a module when you want children, or add another module if you want to have your grandparents when they're elderly and you want to look after them. So maybe you could preempt, you know, so many people buy a house and then either move or extend. So maybe you could make that already something that you think about. Think about the life cycle of the house and the needs from, you know, buying your first home, either on your own or with a partner, and then how, if you became a family, how you would adapt that house. Maybe there's a bit of thinking there.
Thank you.
Cool.